Hello, my friends, and welcome to our first episode of Kardec Radio, sorry, Spiritism Study, Kardec After Lunch on KardecRadio.com. Um, this program has been held for a few months on Facebook Live, on our channel, and normal schedule is Monday through Friday. We read one of Kardec's works sequentially, Monday through Friday. And it's being held, thank you, Vanessa, it's being held on different times. The intent was really to reach you during your daily routine, where you'll be able to make full use of the opportunities God put in front of us to really change your thoughts, change your behavior, and change our words towards others. Because, like I say, it's easy being a spiritist at the Spiritist Center, but it's a much different thing to be a spiritist out and about with your coworkers, with your family, with those unknown to you who have no expectation of you being a spiritist. So the intent is to expose you to the works of Kardec, because I have been in spiritism for a little while, but I understand that many people find Kardec a bit uh, perhaps a little too difficult for them. The um, the vocabulary is a bit antiquated, perhaps, but I believe that you have to make an effort in order to, thank you, Leah, in order to elevate ourselves to the level of the doctrine, really. So thanks for being with us. I'm gonna make a couple of more expositions about the project, give a couple of thanks, and then we proceed with our reading. Part of the projects, or spiritismstudy.org, encompasses the study aid that we have developed based on a kardecpedia.com translation of the Spirits book. And this being the Spirits book, it's full edition. See how fake it is. I took upon myself, based on the study that we held at Love and Wisdom of Largo, Florida, to where we cover up the answers before reading, the question, and we try to discuss and try to ascertain if our expectations or ideas of the answer are actually, and they correlate with the answer factually. So in these editions, we have the hardcover and the softcover. I deleted all the answers, and I have to say, upon doing this and upon opening the book and going through some of the questions, you realize how much in common we have with the other faiths, other religions. We all concerned about the same questions, or answers differ a little bit in details, in words or format, but basically all trying to reach the same. Thank you, Rihanna and Raquel. We're just trying to reach God, right? So um, the best way to do it, in my personal opinion, is to study your faith, right? Whatever faith you decide to adhere, please make the necessary effort to be good at it, right? So in case of Spiritism, which I became acquainted recently and started reading both in Portuguese and in English, I decided that to heed the call which says, Spiritists, love one another and educate ourselves. So, or educate yourselves. So I figured, why not, while I'm pursuing my education, why not offer my time? Hi, Larissa. Thank you for joining. Why not offer my time for those who would like to join in and are perhaps encumbered by different schedules, or are not located near a Spiritist society in order to attend their studies. So putting this out in the web, not only I offer this opportunity for us to study together, expose you to some of the Kardec's books that perhaps you may not see then being studied at Spiritist societies, uh, and also going to our page on Facebook, you'll be able to book a one-on-one session with one of our volunteers, which will study with you one of the books that we are comfortable with. In my case, Kardec's books. Brian Foster is also a volunteer, and he has, of course, the details about the books he's comfortable with. Yes, much like Rihanna said, Rihanna just said, like Chico said, rather be a good Catholic than a bad Spiritist. So we have no, how do I say, no authority to tell you which is the right faith for you to follow. It's something that you have to decide on your own. But for you to decide, you have to study what each faith professes, and if it sounds right with your moral, and religious and spiritual values, right? But so in this case, uh, those books, those study aids are meant for study groups to utilize, and they are free of charge. I will personally send them to the groups who would like to apply for sponsorship, and I'm only able to send a few a month, but I would really like to have feedback on it. Um, we have already wasted some time. I'm just going to give a couple of thanks. And I'd like to thank all the people that make part either as workers or uh, members of some of the centers, some of the Spiritist societies I've been educated at, which was the Tampa Spiritist Society, Andre Luis of Tampa, Florida, Love and Wisdom of Largo, also Seeds of Love of Jacksonville, and our friends in Orlando of Plenitude, other centers in Orlando, and also have friends in Fort Myers and Miami. So thank you very much about all the support you have given, all the education you dispense in order for me to do, in my humble opinion, a little bit of my part in reaching others and help to spread the consolation. And although I will start this reading at question 1, I really would encourage each and every one of you to follow along this reading, which is a really short one. This is only a 15-minute program. But also, and you can follow with the written book, you can follow in the electronic book, which I also recommend. Let me see if I have it. I don't have it here. You can also use kardecpedia.com and utilize their translation, which I recommend. But do not neglect to read all those other pages of the introduction, which are very, very valuable as well. So if you like to read with me or one of the volunteers, please book a session with us. But starting at chapter 1, which deals with God, we're going to talk about God and the infinite. Question number 1, what is God? And the answer is, God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. Matthew had a session with Brian, a great time, so thank you. Why do we start, and I would like to ask you this because I don't want people, perhaps at the first time you're reading this book, yes, you'll just read it and you'll not consider the reasons why it was done in such a way. But I would like you to know there and to be able to develop a more involved reading, whatever reading material you're going through. Why do you think Kardec started in the very first question, what is God? It's because this is paramount in the whole of this study. There will be no reason for someone to read this whole book or the other books I have here on my shelf without considering God first, right? So without accepting this very first question and answer, uh, you probably kind of save someone some time. If you start right here and you already you don't agree with God being the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things, then perhaps this book is not for you. Not yet. But let's continue. Question number 2. What is meant by the infinite? And the answer is that which has neither beginning nor end, the unknown. All which is unknown is infinite. And we nowadays come to accept the idea of infinite, perhaps automatically, but try to use your memory and go back to the times where you were still a little kid going through school, and I imagine the math teacher was the one tasked with explaining what infinite is, and what puzzle look that many of us had in our faces. How can there be an infinite? Infinite is just, my teacher explained, you just pick any number, the highest number you can, and add one to it, and add one to it, and keep adding. And that seems easy to apply to a number. We can always add one, but it's a much different mental exercise to imagine infinite space, infinite time, infinite knowledge. So when we do try to have an idea of God in its infinite wisdom and infinite virtues, it is so difficult. But we're gonna keep going, right? Number 3, could we say that God is the infinite? And the answer is that will be an incomplete definition. Human speech is too impoverished and insufficient to define that which transcends human intelligence. And a commentary by Kardec. God is infinite in divine perfection, but the infinite itself is an abstract concept. Thus, to say that God is the infinite is to replace the thing itself with one of its attributes. It is to define something that is unknown by referring to something else that is equally unknown. So, in the very beginning of this book, Kardec, in the introduction, Kardec goes on to say that the spirits themselves, and also mentioned that many times, we have to be clear and precise when using words, because our vocabulary is still too impoverished, too imperfect to convey what thought can, right? So that's why we have so many misunderstandings between one another, between countries, between faith, between families, between family members. So it only through study, well, at least in my case, was only through diligent, frequent, and determined study of the doctrine that we'd be able to make a little bit of progress. And the reason I say is because the opportunities for improvement that God places in our day-to-day lives, every moment, we're only going to benefit from it if we have the necessary knowledge, to go consult and ask ourselves, for example, what would Jesus do in this situation? And perhaps utilize one of his parables in the situation we find ourselves to be able to control and properly utilize our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And that is a slow process at times, but I guarantee that if you start, and you have to start somewhere, you start slowly, start with the book, the Spirit's book, and continue on with the rest of the books, which I'm also going to be covering, you will make progress. So thank you very much for being with us. Thank you all the people who contributed to our comment section, to the likes, to the shares. And please don't forget to interact with us, Kardec Radio, and also on our page on Facebook if you like to know more about this project. Thank you. Godspeed to all of you.